Unsho, who, because he doesn't believe in Chinese medicine and thinks all these ancient people were more or less ignorant.
But he's translated more books on it
But-
than anyone else.
Yeah, and he's an academic and makes clear Aristotelian distinctions between things, which is useful in certain instances. He says the Neijing was a compilation
Right.
of various different schools. Some places in the Neijing it talks about the 5 Zong and the 6 Fu.
Right.
It leaves the pericardium out. Other places, it's in there. He says different schools said different things, and the Neijing was a compilation. Why at this particular time in history was this sometimes considered, sometimes not? This gets to the heart of the question. And this is clear, I think, when you ever go and hang out with indigenous people who aren't civilized, people who live in a tribal situation, people who live in villages, people who live close to the earth, people who aren't living in cities. There is something about them that is much, much more essential, much more open, much more there. Not smart necessarily, not knowledgeable necessarily, but more, you can feel their hearts. People talk about this with Tibetans, and they think it's because of Tibetan Buddhism. I'm skeptical about that.
I've experienced it
maybe.
among the Hmong,
Yeah,
and we got drunk every day. And
yeah. I mean, it's not like they're enlightened. But there's something much closer to the surface in indigenous people than in people who live in cities, who live in civilization. It had to do partly with slavery. The economic foundation and cornerstone of civilization is slavery. You go out and you get a bunch of these ignorant savages and you kill all their wise men and you put them in chains, then you bring them in and you make them work for you. And on that, then you have elevated beings who read and write and study architecture and language and read the stars, and it's all built on the backs of slaves. Peculiar situation on this planet that this is the way it works. So my speculative thesis on this is that when people are faced with this situation of being civilized, of being enslaved, and maybe if you can work your way up, you can get into the upper classes where you can cultivate yourself, you have to have a heart protector. You have to have something that puts out effective way to harmonize yourself with the people that you've been thrown into very close proximity with, oftentimes under the yoke. It's a product of civilization to try to formulate what's happening so that in this situation we can keep our hearts alive, and something crystallizes and comes around our heart to make sure that in hostile situations we're not too exposed. It protects us. It also has to do with this planet. Everything's at war here. Everything's trying to eat everything else. It's a fucked up place.
Oh my god, if you watch that Planet Earth thing,
yeah,
the BBC, it's just things eating things.
Yeah, everything's eating everything.
Things eating things.
It's a struggle to survive.
Some of them are really cute.
If it's not the damn mountain lions, it's the fucking viruses. Something's trying to eat you.
Well, do you have a way that you think about like the Well, in the Shinbao translation of it, in terms of some people translating it as that is the uterus.
I really connect this with the fascia, and how and what a critical part the fascia plays in the connection between the heart, between the emotions and the body, and that's why people say Qi Gong, Jin, the fascia. Why would you name a deep esoteric system after the fascia, which is just an ordinary body part that holds you together? Why is that? Because it is. That is what the heart protector is. Physically, it is the fascia that puts this sac around the organ, heart, that tightens up to keep the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune from penetrating in and killing it. We know we're about to get attacked. Period. That's life on this planet. We're about to be attacked. So over time, we have developed in our fascia this sac that surrounds our heart, that contracts when we feel threatened. And for most of us, most of the time, just stays contracted. And makes us live below our natural station, below who we really are as emotional and intellectual beings, and forces us to live in our body, our desires and our pleasures and our comforts, and keeps us shut off from real life, our real life. That's what the transition is good for. That's what it's for, really, to stretch open the fascia that surround the heart so that we can feel again.
It's my bias, but it seems like in our culture in particular that we're really great at talking about things, but not so great at doing things.
I think it has to do with the peculiar plight of the Indo-European line, the cultivation of the mind, and civilization, which is connected to that. Something happened so that we got stuck in our heads and stopped realizing how much more fun and interesting and exciting our bodies are. You find this when you first try to sense, when you try to breathe through the surface of your skin or breathe into the dog tian. The first thing the mind says is, that sounds boring. Come on, give me some lovely little picture of floating off to a lovely place that God will come and kiss me, whatever. Our actual experience of the sensation of our bodies, something in our minds, in our heads, believes that that's boring, and that we really can't get there that way. And it was some weird twist on, like in Lao Tzu, where he says the five senses rob the essence. And people take that to mean that you shouldn't be in your body, that you should lift your consciousness up above your body into this beautiful world of the mind, which is a higher world, and which we have, for good reasons, spent many, many centuries raising to the point where it is now. But something got happened where the understanding that the sensation of the body is as absolute equal value as the experience of the mind. And of course the emotions are the poor confused beaten horse that just is used to pull things around and has even less attention given to it than the body. But knowing that, you try to focus your mind on your emotions, and for the most part, you just think more about your emotions. You really have to go back into the body to get into the emotions, to really
like
experience the emotions.
What you're saying about other things where you have to start with something you can do rather than...
Yeah. This idea that sounds great, but you can't really do it with a mind. You can't open your heart with your mind. You can't relax the pericardium and feel open and comfortable and loving by thinking you should. Just doesn't work.
Bummer.
And you see this both in Asian and in Western philosophy. This bizarre tendency to try to pull out of the sensation.
Right.
The ability that something in the head has to direct the focus of one's attention where it chooses. And that being our starting point. The one power we do actually have, that we, to a degree, have the ability to focus our attention. And what Lao Tzu is saying is that the sensations, what we see, what we hear, smell, taste, that without our internal volition pulls our attention, steals our attention, pulls our attention away from where we as potentially evolved human beings could be focusing it, or have chosen to focus it, whatever that is. That we're distracted by sounds, by sights, by smells, by flavors. Our attention is pulled out of us. And therefore we lose the one power that we potentially have to focus our attention where we choose to focus it. Which should be starting on the center of our bodies, the center of our sensations, the dantian, the place that the body, where the center of the body is, and the center of the sensations are. We need to focus on our sensations, but intentionally focus on our sensations, rather than have our attention pulled by all kinds of random associations outside of ourselves. And that really is the battleground, attention. The ability, first of all, to put it in one place that we choose to put it. And in a way, it doesn't matter where. So what matters is that it's coming from our own initiative, and we're doing it, and we're able to hold it there. Of course, as one becomes more and more able to do that, then you can, by choice, split it, divide it. Hold one part down there and one part out there. One part on your dantian, one part on your heart. Once you can hold it one place, then you can start to choose. And that's the beginning of what power is possible for a human being. But in reality, our situation now as modern Western cultured people, for the most part, is it's pulled into our daydreams. It's pulled into our imaginations. It's pulled into the lovely dream we have about the person that we'll meet who understands us and is also beautiful and wants to make love. will stay with us forever.
I'm
and
so
always
excited about
care
her, Yeah.
and love and trust us and
She is
and-
so great.
and for the most part, that's where all our attention goes.